All right, so I got some new Tusk 3-point harnesses. Nope, I didn't. I got some new Tusk 4-point harnesses from Rocky Mountain ATV for the RZR. We were riding around in the RZR. I had like a 6-hour ride the other day, and those regular seat belts were just killing my neck. My neck hurt for 2 days. I have harnesses in my other machine, and I can ride all day with that, 10 hours, 100 miles, doesn't bother me at all. So I figured it's time to upgrade to 4-point harnesses. So we're gonna check these out. We'll take a look at them here real quick, and then I'll walk you through the install. But I ordered 2, obviously, 1 for each side. The driver's side actually comes with a seatbelt override, which is pretty cool. Most companies make you buy the override separate. I happen to have one that I bought separate, but now I've got a spare. So there's the override for Polaris. I also have a Textron Havoc X, and it uses the same seatbelt override. So which ones are these? Obviously, I think most people understand that Tusk is a Rocky Mountain ATV brand. I use Tusk products elsewhere, and I've been pretty happy with them, except for this, which was the oak crap handle on the passenger side, and I was riding with my son, and I ripped that off, my big heavy arms. So I gotta get that replaced. I'm not sure how they stand behind that, but we'll figure it out. So these are 3-inch harnesses. The Textron Havoc has 2-inch harnesses. These are a little wider to provide a little more distribution of the forces of the harness across your shoulder, so it's not digging in so much. Hopefully that'll be better. These are also pretty slick because they have a spot to put your phone or other stuff. So that's a closed pocket that's nylon, and then on this side they have a mesh pocket. Pretty cool. Not too many of the other brands that I looked at have that, so that's good. This is a standard clasp system that they use for these 4-point harnesses. The ones that I got from PRP are more like a standard seatbelt latch that's in your car. They're nice too. So we're going to check these out. They do come with the hardware here on the other side to bolt on to your roll cage. So I'm not sure which side this is. I'm not sure if it matters. I think they're both the same. It's just one you need to use the override and one you do not. So there's what they look like. Yeah, pretty cool looking harness. They're much more robust than the PRPs. I chose not to order the 3-inch PRPs. Like I said, these are 3-inch and the PRPs are 2-inch. But pretty nice looking harnesses. And here in a bit, we'll get them into the machine after it dries off. As you can see, I'm muddy as hell because I was out there washing it. But as soon as it dries, we'll get these put in, and we'll let you know what we think. So I went to Home Depot and I got these bolts. They're 1/2-inch bolts with, I'm not even sure what the length of this shank is. Let's see. It's too long is the bottom line. It's like 6/10 of an inch. So what we have to do is we have to create some kind of a stack up here. So after the job was done, this is the hardware I recommend without having a stack up. So we've got to remove this. We've got to remove this. And we've got to remove this. Also, this whole center console has to come out. They're mostly just the plastic fasteners that are in here. As you can see here, got a couple Torx screw heads there, like that one, and we have one way up front. We'll take all of these boots off of the shifters and the seat belt locking mechanism here, and these will ultimately be coming out. I don't know. I don't need that one right now. A lot of mud in there. I think I'm going to clean that out. Well, that was pretty interesting. That's a lot of gunk that gets down in there. Build up from riding for a year, because I've never been in there to clean it. So note to self, get in there every once in a while and clean that out. Also, there's a grease fitting there, so I'll hit that with some grease before I put it all back together. When I first saw these, I thought that I was not going to be able to get a wrench on those. Guess what? I can't. But also, I don't need to, because they lock in place in there, and you don't need a wrench. So that takes a 3/4 inch, and because I don't feel like taking all the plastics off, I just use this Harbor Freight ratchet with the articulating head on it. Seems to work all right. That's it. She out. 5/8 it is. Now you're supposed to hold on to the hardware, because we'll have to reuse it. However, I do not like how this appears it will go together, because it's going to be at a funky angle. Here, this is the plug that we're going to connect the override to. All right, so I'm going to attempt to show you where the switch is for the override, not switch, plug, whatever. There's a small wiring harness that you have to install, or a shorting plug. See the blue down there? There she be. So that shorting plug comes with the harnesses, and you just unplug the existing seat belts from that harness, and then plug the shorting plug in. As you can see, I zip tied it and just to keep it secure so it wasn't bouncing around. And I'm going to cut the end off that zip tie when we're all done. So, bad news. The instructions tell you to keep your hardware, but that's my hardware, and it's captive, it's swedged in. Now I could probably pop it out, but I'm not going to. So I've got to go pick up 2 bolts for this. All the other hardware is going to work just fine, but I'm going to go pick up 2 new bolts at Home Depot again. So it looks like I got to make another trip. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is attach the top of the shoulder strap to these connection points that Polaris put in place for us. And of course, you've got to look at the harness to make sure that you're installing the correct one. So this one obviously comes to the passenger side and will connect to where the old seat belt was sitting before. One of the things that I've noticed, just the way that we're going to hook this up, as you can see, this is bent here, which would not allow it to sit flush against this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin it around the other way so that it'll sit flush. Going to take these belts apart a bit. Slide this off of here, and I'm just going to flip it like that. And roll these edges in because at least as they came from the factory, they were rolled in. So we're just going to go ahead and pull the belt through there. I'm going to slide this on down some because these harnesses are super long, like really, really long. I'm going to try to gauge it a little bit from the driver's side. My voice command's on, so my camera kept turning off. So let's get this back together here. We can obviously adjust these to make them exactly what we want. But once we have this bracket in place where we want, we're just going to take this belt back up through here. Like so, down through the other side. Now I had to go to Home Depot and buy hardware, and then I modified it. I cut these bolts off. I'll give you guys the information on what I did there. But the stack up is going to look like this. There are 3 washers. This is a 1/2 inch 13 pitch coarse thread bolt, and I have a nylon locking nut for the back. So the bolt and the 2 washers are going to go on this side, on my side, as you can see through here. We're going to put this on next, and then a washer over top of that, and then the nut. And we're going to do the same thing with the other side. Again, I'm going to take this off and I'm going to flip it around the other way. Flip. Fold these over inward. And then we're just going to thread it on down. A long ways down. Maybe not that far. And then back up through. Like so. Down. through this side, and I'm not going to lock this one yet because we're still going to have to adjust them once we get everything in place and get the seat. So again, bolt, 2 washers on this side. Bracket, washer, nylon, lock nut. And we'll snug these up once we get everything installed the way we want it. All right, so for the most part, we're going to reuse hardware here, with the exception of in this corner, which is going to be a little bit tough for you to see past everything. But this is where the original seat belt was hooked up. And the original seat belt, the auto tensioner, has a captive bolt in it. So I had to go to Home Depot and buy another bolt. That's what this is. It's a size 12, 25 millimeter, 1.75 thread pitch. And that matches the bolt, or the nut that they originally used. So that is the hardware. For some reason, everything else seems to be standard on here, but this is metric. So I'm going to go ahead and put this through that side. Make sure I've got the right belt here. This belt goes back. See, it's curved the proper direction. I'm going to put this on like so. I'm going to put a washer there, and then we're going to put the nylon lock nut on there that they already had. Now, I don't normally like to see threads and bearing like that, but that's the way it was from the factory, so I'm just going to roll with it. Hardware that has that solid shank on it, it's hard to find local and the exact right sizes, which is what we ended up doing. We bought the wrong size, so I had to cut them down. And I don't feel like doing that again. So there's the passenger side. Then we'll snug all this up once we have it all tight. Yeah, not tight. We'll snug it up to make it tight, but we'll snug it up when we get everything else installed. So on this one, I'm not going to use any washers. This is exactly the way that they had it installed before. So this goes through like so. Belt goes on here, and nylon lock nut goes on this side. Now, the belt manufacturer would rather see this oriented. I'm going to take this apart so I can show you. They would rather see it oriented this way, which I agree. That would be a whole hell of a lot better. But Polaris, that's not how they have these brackets in. Maybe at some point in time I can have some heavy gauge steel metal bent to turn this around so that I can mount it properly. But for right now, this is what we've got. So that's how it's going to go in. Now you might be thinking, oh, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when you've got to put that center console back in? I would rather have the ease of getting my tools in here than put the console on and then try to tighten it up. So we're going to snug everything up with the console off, and then I'll just extract this belt and fish it back up through. So this is a 5/8 inch wrench that I use on the flange bolt, and then I'm using a 3/4 inch socket on the nut itself. Okay, so there's the one side. This one they suggest Have it at a 40 to an 80 degree angle. And of course this is a little bit tight. Get the tools in because I'm lazy and I didn't want to take the plastics off. I don't really think it was necessary to take the plastics off either. So loosen that up just a tad so we can move that up. I'm not sure where 80 comes from. We're not going to use 80. Maybe we get it at a 45 or something like that. All right, so we got the bottoms done, and we'll go back to the top. These are both 3/4. Our nut's 3/4, and the head of our bolt is 3/4. So I gotta go get my handy dandy impact gun, which I'm sure people will give me hell for, but don't care. I'm gonna zip these on quick. Pretty snug, but still has a little bit of movement in there, so that's good. All right, money. All right, so now we're gonna get the seat in and get these adjusted. Now, I'm a pretty big guy, and ultimately my wife will end up sitting over here, but we'll get them close, and then when she's around, we'll have to tune it, fine tune it. All right, seat is in. Fat boy problems. I got my knockouts in the floor. All right, so let's see. That one's a little bit low. That one's also way low. So we'll get them adjusted first. And if they're low on me, they're going to be really low on my wife. The joy of adjusting 4-point harnesses. Yeah, so actually I think they were about up to here on the driver's side that I already did, is where these pads would rest, just hanging there. So I'll probably pull these up just a little bit more. Maybe I'll pull them up to be even with this for now. Okay, that looks pretty good. Thread this back through. Down through the forward side. And then I'm just going to go ahead and thread it through to lock it, even though I might change it. But I probably won't bother changing it tonight. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing on this other side. See how low this is? We want the pads probably about up to here. You can see down here's the bottom where it's going to come across. So that looks pretty good there. So we'll loop this back through. Back down. And then the final lock thread. Now it's a little low, but we'll fine tune it. All right. So let's get situated in here. All right. Here's our lap belt. Just pull up on this to unlock it. There it goes, it's in. Lock it down. And then you pull these straps to adjust it across your waist. Your chest strap so that you don't come out of the harness. They say this should be about 4 inches below your chin. And then you pull these bad boys down to tighten it on your shoulders. And there she be. Very comfortable. I have PRP harnesses in my Textron Havoc. They're 2-inch. I have a buddy that was telling me don't get 3-inch. It hits you funny on the neck. So far, I don't see that that'll be a problem with these. Super comfortable. Have a place for my phone. Whatever else I want to put in here. So that is really cool. The PRP harnesses don't have that. And like I said, super comfortable. I can tighten these down as tight as I want, you know, especially if I'm a passenger. Sometimes when I'm driving, I don't like them super tight because I lose some mobility. But yeah, feels great. Now this is the other thing that I hate about my PRPs that I do not have a problem with in these. Check this out. Oh, the PRPs, no way, dude. They are freaking really hard to open up and adjust to loosen. These things loosen flawlessly. And no, it's not because they were dirty. They just have never operated very easily. So these are great. I love them. Good job, Tusk. Rocky Mountain ATV. Love that place. I used $70 worth of points, which almost paid for the driver's side or the passenger side, one of the sides. So awesome. I hope you enjoyed the video. Keep on checking back. Hit subscribe, like, leave me comments. I'm still working on this. I'm pretty new, so the intent is to get a whole lot better as we go along and provide good information for fellow riders out there. Have a good time. Do it in the dirt.